critical weapon in the fight against climate change. Mangrove forests lock away more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere per hectare than tropical forests. They also protect coasts from storms and erosion, which scientists predict will become more devastating as the planet's climate changes. As much as half of the world's mangroves are already lost. Restoring these valuable forests could play an important role in the multifaceted approaches needed to stabilize the climate, and could have a much greater value in pure economic terms than developing coastlines for tourism, aquaculture, or agriculture. Now policymakers and coastal planners have access to a unique mapping tool to identify where to restore mangroves for maximum benefits. The interactive map highlights places where mangroves once thrived and where conditions remain suitable for restoration. More than that, the tool calculates the social and economic benefits of restoring mangroves at each location.
So this work began with us taking some of the very latest maps of mangrove coverage around the world developed by Global Mangrove Watch and looking at areas where mangroves have been recently lost since 1996. We took those areas of loss and we also developed separately a metric for degradation, where mangroves still are there but have been degraded, all of which influence the ease at which we can put mangroves back. And so we developed this final model which shows around 1 million hectares around the world where mangroves could be restored and deliver all of the many benefits that would deliver.
Restoring even half of these areas could reduce flooding risks to hundreds of thousands of people, extract the CO2 equivalent to the emissions of 25 million US homes, and avoid emissions from soils equivalent to a further 117 million homes.
The map is multi-layered. For example, take Indonesia. It is still the world's largest mangrove nation, but its mangroves continue to be lost at extraordinary rates. We found that the country has over 180,000 hectares of restorable mangrove. If we zoom on different locations, we see that if carbon sequestration is the goal, it would be best to focus restoration on the deltas of eastern Sumatra. However, for the protection of coastal populations, it may be more valuable to focus in parts of Java. We can see that the benefits of focusing here could save lives, secure jobs and protect infrastructure. Users can assess the size of restoration opportunity and the potential benefits for any area.
In reality, the benefits from restoring mangroves are way too great to ignore. These are ecosystems which can pack away between 2 and 5 times the amount of carbon of any terrestrial forests. They're ecosystems that can hold waves. 66% of the energy of an incoming wave can be attenuated as it passes through a mangrove forest. And they're ecosystems that generate fish. Millions upon millions of additional fish and shrimps and crabs and mollusks are added to ecosystems which go on to feed millions of people and provide livelihoods and incomes around the world.
This new tool literally puts mangroves on the map. Now it's time to scale up restoration, not just for its many local benefits, but also as part of the fight against climate change.
Yes, good morning. My name is Champunut Chanbo. I'm the Market Development Manager, representative of Dow Thailand. I'm most honored to have been given the MC duty today. First of all, I would like to express a warm welcome to all of you and all the media who are in this room and those who are watching through the Zoom application. I welcome all of you to the Blue Carbon Conference 2022. Under the program of Dow and Thailand Mangrove Alliance program, the event today comes from the strong intention of Dow, who is the leader of material science and who is aiming for sustainability with all of the alliance, which is the Department of marine and coastal resources and IUCN and all related partners in order to move forward our attempt to slow down the climate change impacts with the coastal resources. This program is called Blue Carbon. For the Dow Thailand Mangrove Alliance, we have started working since 2020. It's not simply just planting mangroves, but development of the area for sustainability in order to conserve biodiversity and the lifestyles of the community. We are promoting participation by the public. This cooperation does not only allow for us to create social benefits, but also economic benefits as well as environmental benefits. Today, we have leading experts from various sectors to explain and also to provide models of revival of the coastal areas and the carbon credit mechanism, the role of the community in order to raise their awareness in preserving the conservation of the environment and also leading to net zero objectives. On this occasion, may I invite the Dow Thailand representative to provide a welcome. May I welcome Kun Chatchai Learnpon Charanchai, the president of Dow Thailand, to provide welcome remarks.
Good morning. Professor Dr. Sanit Aksorngao, Chairman of National Economics and Social Development Council, Kun Kietchai Maitriwong, Executive Directors of the Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organizations, Kun Apichai Anekvanakun and Dr. Ponsi Suttanarak, the Deputy Director Generals of the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, Dr. Dindo Kampilan, the IUCN Regional Director for Asias and Hub Directors for Oceanias, from the International Union for Conservation of Natures, the expert medias and all the distinguished participants. Climate change and plastic waste are the two major problems on the environment and economies that the whole world, including Thailand, are facing. It is extremely important that all sectors have to collaborate to reduce the emissions of carbon dioxide and to enhance the capacity in the storage and sequestration of carbon dioxide in effective ways, and also to manage plastic waste so that it would not be leaked into the environment. The information from the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources specify that the coastal ecosystem has a higher capacities to sequester carbon dioxide, 10 times more than terrestrial forests. It acts as a strainer to trap the plastic waste, preventing leakages into the marine environment. So the conservation of blue carbon, for example, the mangrove forest and seagrass base, is an important agenda for us to create the high potential carbon sinks to drive Thailand to the carbon neutrality status. Dow Thailand, as a company, you have committed on innovations and sustainability. We see the importance on fighting climate change, stopping plastic waste leakages, and promoting the recycle system according to circular economy principles. So we, together with the Department of Marine Coastal Resources and IUCN, scaling up the work of the Mangrove for the Futures Network, and also the reforestation of the mangrove forest that Dow has been working on it in Thailand for more than 10 years, which leads to the Dow and Thailand Mangrove Alliance network since the year 2020. The objective is to conserve the mangrove forest at the Thai Gulf and Andaman Sea with the Pak Nam Prasat sub-district in Rayong as the pilot area, and have a project to scale up for more than 5,000 across the countries. Dow Thailand Mangrove Alliance have the objective to fight climate change and to stop plastic leakages into the marine environment. So we will set up the system together with a network to restoring the mangrove forest for the benefit in the environmental issues and the economics and the society by elevating the conservation of mangrove forests in a holistic way with the participation from the private sectors, the government sectors, and the communities. Nowadays, we are the largest network on the coastal ecosystem conservation that is the largest in Thailand, and have the planning to exchange experience together with the Global Mangrove Alliance in the near futures. Today, it is my great honor to be representative from all the stakeholders, from the private sectors, from the government sectors, NGO, from the academic institutions, and the community to come together to share information and experiences to preserve the blue carbon area, including the reforestation of the mangrove forest and seagrass bed. This is the first time that we have such a forum with a common interest in Thailand. And it is our intention to see the engagement from all the stakeholders in our conservation effort. I would like to thank DMCR and IUCN who co-organized this event with Dow, and would like to thank all the speakers, panelists, and all the participants to make this a reality. I sincerely hope that this forum would enhance your knowledge in the appropriate methods of conservation and ignite new ideas, and also a great opportunity to extend the networking of the like-minded organizations to support the business sector to net zero, restoring the ecosystem and the marine coastal resources, and also to support the community economies to drive forward our country to the stability and sustainability. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kun Chatchai. And next, it would be a keynote speech from the leading organizations of Thailand and international. So would be informing us about the direction that we could restoring the coastal resources and the blue carbon credit. The first person, we've been honored by Professor Dr. Sanit Aksornkao, Chairman of the National Economics and Social Development Councils, and also so he left a message to stress the importance of the ecosystems and the marine resources and the coastal resources. Please.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Representatives of the public agencies, representative of the educational sector and the private sector. I think today the Blue Carbon Conference is a very important meeting in which we can exchange and learn together to be something new. It might be something new for Thailand, but I think for many foreign countries, they've started before with blue carbon, or what we call the light blue carbon. Now, you might wonder why and where from does blue carbon come. Actually, we divide this into two parts. Some areas you have the green carbon, which is terrestrial carbon on the land, and then you come to blue carbon, which comes from the ocean or the sea or the coastal areas. Now, for blue carbon in Thailand, we have another vocabulary in Thai that we are going to try and drive. That is the blue carbon economy. Now, this will follow the concept of blue carbon. Blue carbon, as mentioned, comes from the ocean and the coastal areas. Therefore, the area that will sequester all the carbon are all our coastal resources. What is important are the mangrove forests, the seagrass and seaweed, as well as corals. All four ecosystems sequester all of our carbon emission. Now, we have to consider that our research may not have not covered a lot on this area, but we have just started. But at least carbon sequestration within the mangrove forest or blue carbon, we have done this for a long time. For the foreign studies and also Thai studies have found that there is a huge amount of carbon that can be captured in the mangrove forest. It is 10 times higher than terrestrial carbon sequestration. In overseas, when they study in the tropical zone or in the warmer zone, and they study the swamp forests, and they insist that it is actually 10 times more than terrestrial carbon sequestration. This is why we have to focus on the blue carbon. We should have talked about this a long time ago because the climate change is closely linked to blue carbon. In the past, we have not studied this a lot, but today, due to the severe impact of climate change that have caused a lot of problem, which is now becoming much stronger. You can see in the media, in the newspaper, the wildfire that have occurred in California, in Europe, in many countries. It has been caused sometimes without real origination. In Japan, in Korea, and even in Thailand, there's flooding. So we cannot avoid these issues anymore. One tool to handle or to increase sequestration of carbon is blue carbon. So you can see that the agreement globally is that, and ASEAN as well, is that it is time now for us to cooperate and also to cut down on our greenhouse gas emission. Many countries have joined in the talks, COP 24, 25, or 26 that every country have signed for their NCDs. They have their own determined amount of carbon reduction. So I think every one of you here today knows very well about blue carbon. It is extremely important. We have our own resources that can act as a carbon sink to reduce global warming and the impacts of climate change. So I would like to request all of you, I think all of you who are here would agree with me that it is now time to increase our mangrove forests. We need to replant also the seagrass and seaweed that we need to grow a lot more in order to absorb more carbon dioxide. It is time for us to work together. All of the sectors, I would say we are all partners, both private sector, both business, public, even schools or students and the teachers, because if we protect our natural resources, this will be our future treasures for the next generation. Preservation of the mangrove, the seagrass, and the seaweed becomes a great carbon sequestration area for Thailand. And most importantly, the mangrove and the seagrass and the seaweed, they are all public heritage that we can pass on, and it is all ours. If we need to protect all of these resources and use it with great balance, we believe that we can pass on these heritage to our future generation. Thank you very much. May I thank Dr. Sanit for his opening remarks. Next, may I invite the IUCN Regional Director for Asia and the Hub Director for Oceania, who is also working with Dow Alliance, to talk about the protection of marines and coastal resources from the international perspective. Those who are joining us through Zoom, you can choose the globe or interpretation function at the lower bar and choose Thai or English. After listening to the IUCN presentation, you can turn the interpretation off as well.
Dr. Dindo Kampiran, Regional Director, Asia and Director, Regional Hub for Asia Oceania of the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, to give a keynote speech on the stage, please.
Good morning and good day, especially to those who are connected online. I was very surprised when I came into the room when many people said, we're finally seeing you in person. So besides those connecting online, I really would like to say hello, and it's a very good opportunity to meet you all in person. I came to Thailand over a year ago. So many of us have been meeting in Zoom. Mostly I was just an image on the computer screen for over a year. So finally, this is a great chance to see you all in person. I'm really also very honored to come here and represent IUCN for both professional and personal reasons. We're talking about blue carbon. I grew up originally in a small island in southern Philippines, so amidst what would be called blue carbon ecosystems. So I'm very proud now with IUCN that I am contributing together with our team to the promotion of blue carbon in a professional sense. And I'm glad to see the work that we're doing here in Thailand, in Rayong, in Pasek, and the collaboration from different sectors represented today. My task this morning is to help frame our discussion of blue carbon in Thailand with what's going on globally, and hopefully to help direct the discussion to what we can do in this country and what IUCN and the global blue carbon community can also do. At the same time, the results of this conference can be an important input to ongoing and future discussions on the role of blue carbon in restoring, but also in climate adaptation and mitigation. I was asking my IUCN colleagues if there's a need to actually define blue carbon. Those of us who come here today and are joining are already convinced about the value of blue carbon. But as an overview of today's conference, yes, it is important to start by thinking along the same lines of blue carbon, simply defined as the carbon stored in coastal and marine ecosystems. And that's a very significant definition when you think of this country of Thailand and the coastal areas around this country, but also thinking about the whole of Southeast Asia and beyond. For IUCN, blue carbon is important because the region that we're part of, Asia and Oceania, so that's all the way from Fiji to Sri Lanka, Maldives, India, Pakistan. These are the geographies that we are supporting and enabling. So the first, I think, contribution we can make is to help build bridges of learning across the countries. And Maeve here, our lead specialist on our work on coastal and marine, helps for that partnership. So the first message I'd like to convey is that we allow ourselves as a regional community of advocates and practitioners in blue carbon. And I do hope this conference in Thailand will inspire similar conferences in the other countries where we work across Asia and Oceania. So why is blue carbon important, and why blue carbon ecosystems? Oftentimes, I hear immediately a comparison between blue carbon and the other ecosystems of being our coastal and oceans contributing much less compared to terrestrial ecosystems. I think that's not the point, and that's not what we should be discussing and arguing today. Because in the end, we're not here to promote blue carbon as a silver bullet, as a single rapid solution. We're here today to talk about it and its contribution to an integrated and comprehensive approach to climate adaptation and mitigation. But more than that, let's think of blue carbon not just in its connection to climate, for example, the oceans and the coastal ecosystems we have here in Thailand contribute to more than just climate. Think about the ecotourism potential. Think about the livelihoods. So I would really encourage us to broaden our thinking today, the greater and overvalue of coastal ecosystems, not just because of blue carbon, but the many and multiple benefits that come with the ecosystems that we protect. Now, an important part of what we should be doing today in this conference is to be aware of what is going on globally. And part of IUCN's mandate is to engage in the policy discussions and dialogues that are going on. So this framework on the Blue Carbon Initiative is an important reminder to all of us about what is going on at the global, multi-country, multilateral level, and how we can use that to also think about what does it mean for Thailand. So IUCN is part of BCI. It's also a member of several of these initiatives that you have seen there at the moment. And I think today, you look at the upcoming COPs, for example, that are happening in Egypt on climate, on biodiversity in Canada. You have the SDGs, Ramsar, which is the wetlands convention, of which IUCN is the secretariat. Our message is, let's look at blue carbon today as a cross-cutting opportunity, as a strategy to be able to look at the ongoing dialogue, negotiations at the highest level in the COP meetings, and also look back at Thailand's own commitments to the Paris Agreement, to what's going to happen in Montreal for the debate and dialogue. So today is a significant and timely event to inform Thailand as it prepares itself for the coming discussions in the coming months. Now, what is also important is that blue carbon, and we are all advocates of blue carbon, from an IUCN point of view, is framed within what we call NBS, a nature-based solution. So what is NBS? Because right now, everybody talks about nature-based solutions. So many people claim to be experts and carrying business cards saying NBS expert. One of the roles of IUCN is setting global standards on these approaches. So this is a definition of what constitutes as a nature-based solution. And in fact, has been the basis for now what is the official definition under the UN Environment, UNEA, UN Environment Assembly, which, as emphasized, isn't a single solution, but comprises actions that address societal challenges within an ecosystem framing. So today, it may also encourage all of us to think, how does blue carbon contribute to an overall NBS approach here in Thailand? And what are the opportunities and what are the challenges? Okay, this is an interesting table because it helps us look at Thailand in relation to the rest of the world, but also the rest of Asia. And you see there Thailand in comparison to neighboring countries in Southeast Asia, including, for example, Myanmar and the rest of the Mekong. So what is significant from this table that we are seeing here? It's that Thailand, for example, is ranked 25th. It's among the 25 and ranked 9th here in Asia, behind Indonesia and Myanmar. But it also highlights the many opportunities in Thailand to protect and sustainably manage and restore our ecosystem. Not only for itself and for the country, but Thailand's contribution to the world via its various commitments. And to be fully aware that there are many of these commitments, and I think the speakers after me are going to highlight those. Let's think about the NDCs. Let's think about where we have our partner from TGO. What are those commitments within the country, but also globally, that our discussion today can also refer to? A few weeks ago, I was also in the Thailand Climate Forum, which is chaired by the Prime Minister himself. Let's think about what happened in the discussion in Paragon. These are the many ways by which the significance of today's conference can even become bigger, wider, and more long-lasting. Okay. So, an important message for IUCN bringing today is to connect our work on blue carbon and NBS. And here you see many examples of private sector engagement, and we're really happy to have Dow and the other private sector stakeholders with us today, thinking about what is the role that private sector can contribute to this partnership. I do look forward one day to be able to visit the project site in Paksay, near Rayong, and see for itself blue carbon in action. Important when we speak about NBS, and this I have to emphasize, is that there are many NBSs, but there's an IUCN NBS standard with the 8 key criteria. And again, to be able to distinguish not all forms of restoration, example, mangrove restoration, necessarily meet what would be NBS criteria. So may I encourage you, and these are available on our website and online portals. Let's try to look at blue carbon against the overall framing of what is NBS. It is very important that we do it right, and that how we can achieve it, that it's not a quick offset effort, and we all are aware of that. But these are some of the reminders that we need to do. It's not an immediate offsetting action. It's important to be very transparent, and these days when you do collective action, that is going to be a challenge, but something that we all commit to. And really, I think the most important one is the message at the bottom of taking a broader look beyond carbon. So finally, as we look around and discuss for the rest of the day, the most important, I think, significant achievement of today in itself is even coming to this room and this virtual room as government, as private sector, as communities, as civil society organizations, and as academia. And at IUCN, we are proud to have played a role in convening these different stakeholders today. For the government, it's our plea and our message is how it's able to provide an enabling policy framework. For the private sector, of course, it's about demonstrating how business agendas and also societal interests can come together in harmony. Community is very important because at the end, when we talk about blue carbon, we're not talking about what's happening on the screen or in these meeting rooms. We are talking about the actual communities and the actual coastal communities whose lives are affected by or would be contributing to climate action. And much still needs to be done and much still needs to be learned. And this is where the role of academia, this is the role of research, and this is the role of civil society organizations. We are convinced of blue carbon, but at the same time we know there's so much knowledge that we still need to acquire, and there's still so much experience that needs to be gained on the ground. So I do hope that after today, we're able to demonstrate actions of blue carbon in the communities, because I think, as we always say, it's important that live examples and outcomes in the communities are the best forms of evidence to convince the rest of the country and the rest of the world of what is blue carbon. In closing, I also would like to highlight how important this project that we have right now, because it's the live example of how private sector like Dow, DMCR from government, the local governments that we work with in the communities, and IUCN can actually work together towards a common goal. And so I look forward to the outcomes of today's discussion, and we at IUCN also promise that whatever insights, conclusions, and recommendations you have today will also be brought to the regional and the global discussions taking place in the coming months. Again, thank you very much. Kapun ka.
Thank you, ค่ะลำดับต่อไปนะคะ
Next, I would like to invite Kun Kietchai Maitri Wong, the Executive Director of the Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, who will explain about the role of TGO with the Thailand's carbon credit scheme. Yes, good morning, everyone. Kun Chatchai, Dr. Dindo, actually he's Dr. Sanit, who's online, and the Deputy Director of DMCR, both. On behalf of TGO, or Thailand Greenhouse Gas Organization, we are OBG as known in Thai, I would like to explain and support the blue carbon projects, which are all nature-based solutions that is extremely powerful. I have learned that Dow and the Thailand Mangrove Alliance have worked so hard for quite a long time. So today I would like to mention that the TGO is most pleased to be supporting everyone in terms of mangroves and the carbon project, which is considered a project with great potential for Thailand and in line with global trends. TGO aims to be a supporting agency. We are part of the MONRE, Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment, that will help to drive ambitions to carbon neutrality. Our main mission is that we are a key support agency that drives and looks after the greenhouse gas mitigation in Thailand and look after the carbon footprint, whether it's carbon footprint from outside of the country or deployed at the organization level, whether it's scope 1, our own release. Second scope is released through the supply chain, and up to the deployment through the various products. And we are talking about C-band, which we will assess their carbon emission. And finally, we even come down to various events, the sports, tourism activities, and other activities related to logistics. And finally, personal for us, how much carbon dioxide do we release into the atmosphere. The trend of carbon footprint at present are now coming into focus much more. You would realize that the threats of climate change is the number one now globally, and I didn't want to say the severe impact of it, but we should talk about what we could do about it. At present, we usually put in quite more costs, whether it's financially, whether it's sales or products. The costs will become even higher and higher if we do not do anything about it now. Now, for our tool that will help us is the carbon credit. Carbon credit is one solution in which several parties would want to reduce their carbon footprint or cut down on their own carbon emission. The carbon credit has started since the Kyoto Protocol, when many large countries had emit a lot of carbon dioxide, but they want some assistance by promoting other countries to have good in the developing countries, such as in Thailand, to develop what they call the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM. Now, the CDM must have a standard that can be reassured that it is actually reducing carbon emission. This is called the carbon credit. TGO has developed its carbon credit, which under this project called TVER, which is voluntary. Now, this is the different from VERA, which is our main project. Now, the public sector is providing a lot of emphasis on this. We want to support good projects. One weapon is credit. If good programs can create a lot of carbon credit, that can cut down on the cost, the carbon reduction, that can assist the carbon reduction of other agencies. We can use this. Planting or reforestation is one possible project, and in which we want to increase the amount of forests. Carbon credit is one weapon in which you can add to the value of these projects. So I would like to point out that planting trees are not just simply the CSR project anymore. We can use this to add value to our projects. And the value must be standardized. So TGO will act as a focal point and can provide support. We are working with DMCR, with the carbon projects. We cannot, because some state agencies cannot provide carbon credit. We did a lot of CSR, but we cannot spread out the carbon credits through the private sector. That is why we are setting up the second program in which you have to do a carbon credit assessment. This is the public-private cooperative model towards carbon neutrality. We need to create a conducive ecosystem in order to ensure value of the carbon credit. This diagram will show you that the various companies have set target to be net zero. I think especially also Dow, I think you have established this, I believe in 2030 to be cut down to 50% and then net zero eventually. So I think this is the same with various countries that have the net zero target. They have to grow, they have to sell their products, so it is extremely difficult. A lot of pressure on the financial and investment part. So they need a tool to cut down their pressure, which is an innovator. If the innovators would be able to create these low-cost carbon credit, the renewables, they may have new energy models, or they may have EV projects, or they may have green projects in terms of waste and circular economy. And most importantly is the forests. Those who are planting forests with the community, with the local administration. There are two types of forests. There is an agroforestry, and the second is the natural forest. The agroforestry has a great opportunity to create a lot more important projects. And finally, the farmers, which we work with for agriculture, they can be all low carbon project developers. We want to support and promote them to create value, and so they can pass on future carbon credit. TGO is looking after the standard of this, and we wish to improve our standards so that it becomes to the level of international standards. Yes, on the 21st, we started a project. Many large companies can actually approach us for and search for carbon credit and search for carbon credits from these low carbon project developers. We have set up a registry system, which is an ecosystem where we formerly has the CPM mechanism. We have a market which is called carbon market, but the CDM does not work because a lot of people who are committed to cut down on their emission a lot, but the developer does not have any commitment. You don't have to commit to anyone, so the CDM did not work well. So the countries need to set up their own NDCs, short-term, long-term, and medium-term. That will all lead to the projects. So you have to cut costs the most, and at the same time, if you have excess, you can sell it as carbon credit. So we need to have a market. So we have another one called offset. The offset is considered another one which 16 plus. The offset is another important standard. And TGO is looking after both offsets in country and offset at the national level. We have agreement with Switzerland recently, both to control the standard in country and outside. So the market we have to look after the standards. Another point is the incentives, it's economic incentives. We are now looking at the various incentives, and we will work with ONEP, Office of the National Planning, Economic Planning, Environmental Planning, to look at the planting of the trees, whether we can create tax incentives, a reduction of twice the amount of cost or not, and whether investments can be supported by BOI. So everything will go through this channel. We also have the stick, which is the law. We have the act on looking after the greenhouse gas emission. From prior focus on reporting, we are now focusing on the mandatory rules. At the same time, we'll be talking about carbon credit as well, the benefits of carbon credit and how it can be used. At the same time, all the mandatory rules and regulations related to the Ministry of Energy, the Conservation of Energy, law of the Federation, law of the Department of Industries, and the Ministry of Agriculture as well. So you have to cut down on CBAM. So legal measures will be enforced. So finally, I would like to ask you to set up a carbon neutrality group. I think Dow is one of the members. This group, which will seek a roadmap towards neutrality. There are 275 members, which is called the Carbon Neutral Network. I think several people have seen this as a great channel in order to come together to cut down on costs. In order for Thailand to achieve its net zero target in 2065, we have to achieve the carbon neutrality in 2050 that we had set. In order to have lower costs and have carbon credit, and we have carbon access, we can trade with Singapore, Switzerland, Japan, and I think so many people are coming to talk to us. They want the carbon credits. So today, in order to ensure achievement of the target with low cost, we have all the standards in place. TGO will be creating various the net emission in scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, including the sink as well as sequestration. If we can do it by ourselves, we can try and reduce. And each year they have a cited target. If we have not achieved that, we can use the carbon market to offset this. So we can use the carbon market. They will help the offsetting to achieve our annual target. And the best thing to do is to optimize. We can choose whether we are going to reduce it ourselves or we can buy the carbon credit. At the same time, we have the carbon developers, the community, the startup companies we will allow them to achieve higher business target, but at the same time, the total cost of the country will reduce. All this is our TGO's objective. We need to work together, and we're going to need to step up our efforts in order to be Vera and become international. And we're also spreading the ideas to our neighbors in Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar. And we can help to exchange the knowledge in the three countries so that we can change the obstacles to opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Executive Director Kiet. So please, if you could remain on the stage for a minute. And before we continue to the sessions